Hi, today I want to talk to you about how do you actually recognize some shady people in voiceover so that you don't start working with them. Because I just recently made a video about how you should do your own due diligence as a voice actor, which I would suggest that you watch, because if you haven't been doing this so far, I feel like if you listen to my horrifying story, I'm almost confident that's gonna make you want to do it. And it unfolds like an actual Black Mirror episode, of which I am the lead actress in that story. And I really don't want you to have to be the lead actress in a Black Mirror episode, so to speak, in voiceover. So you should go and really check that out. So how do you actually recognize if something is shady, so you don't start working with these people? Or at the very least, your alarm bells will go off and you can take a second look. I'm just gonna tell you about some of my own experiences. I'm gonna share with you some of my own examples from my work with my clients, and we're just gonna talk about it. I'm gonna tell you what I do, how I check the backgrounds of these clients that I am working with. And maybe you can get something out of this for yourself, some methods for yourself. In order to determine the legitimacy of someone, the best way I can explain this is exactly like an episode of CATFISH. I don't know if you've ever seen it. CATFISH was about partnerships, like romantic relationships, but it was about people meeting somebody online and starting a relationship with this person without ever really knowing, is this person who they say they are? That's what a catfish is. I think most people know what that term refers to, but it's just somebody pretending to be somebody that they are not. In this practice, how this relates to voiceover and what I'm going to talk about is how you need to become basically like the hosts of that TV show, Catfish. Exactly like that. You too need to go and search up everything you can possibly find about these clients that you are working with in order to determine, are they even real or not? Or websites or apps or products, whatever it is. Before I even get started, I want to talk to you about what you should not do, what you should not ever assume, because there are a few things. You should never assume that the person is a scammer, ever. Even if it very much, almost like 100% looks like they are a scammer. You don't know if they really are, because it's very difficult to prove 100% that yes, this is a scam. And also because in voiceover, the people that you are working with, just like I mentioned in my last video, are almost always middlemen. It's just some producer of some production company or some project manager or someone like that. And it's the production company who is producing this voiceover for their end client, who could be whoever. And you just don't know who is the scammer here, if anybody. Is it your client, the person you're talking to, or is it this end client? You have no idea. So you should never go pointing fingers at anybody. And it goes without saying that even if you had legitimate basis to do that, first of all, it doesn't really lead anywhere. And it's just gonna make you look unprofessional if you just go accusing people of something, even if you are right. What is supposed to result from that? Nothing, really. So I think best thing for you to do is just come to a conclusion that I'm not gonna work with these people if I can't get 100% confidence that they are who they say they are, who they claim themselves to be. Leave it at that. You don't even need to explain to these people why you're not working with them. You don't even need to tell them, I think you are a scammer or something. But you honestly don't even need to explain. You can just say, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to pass on this opportunity, but thank you so much for reaching out. And I wish you the best. And that's it. That's what I often do when I can't get 100% confidence. about who I'm talking to. So whenever somebody gets in touch with me about voiceover, wants my voiceover services, and this is a new person, I don't know anything about them, there are a few things that I want to see before I say yes to working with them. Overall, I would say I want to see a consistent picture about everything this person is telling me. So I want to see that they are who they say they are. So I'm just going to give you like a real example from my own work. Very often people will approach me through my website, for example. And whenever they do, usually they start out with saying, "Hi, Kelly." Already a good sign I'm being addressed personally. Because that's one of the things that scammers will do. You will be just like, "Hi, voice artist," or something. Or "Hi, username," if you have a username somewhere. But personal name, good sign, usually. "Hi, Kelly, I am so-and-so," gives me their actual name. "I am from company X," gives me the actual name of the company. Sometimes they will now add a link to the company as well, so that I can check it out. Then they will briefly explain what they are looking for. "We are currently doing project whatever. We are looking for Estonian voice artists, or a voice artist with an accent," or something like that, something that I actually offer. "We are reaching out to you for this and this reason," like very specific, you would notice. Then they will just conclude with it, like, "If you are interested in this, I would love to tell you more." If it's an email directly to me, and doesn't even have to be through my website, but if it's directly to my professional email address, then in the email footer, they will also have a picture of this person and their name and the company and the profession. And usually it could even be a phone number for this person. There will be their professional email and just a link to the actual company that they are writing to me from. So I already have a lot of information here to check out. Now, I would say, even if these people are giving you some kind of links to click, they're sending you stuff, I would not click them in the email, because I'm sure you know by now that scammers do the same thing. They're just trying to get you to click on things. And legitimate people will do the same thing. But if this is a legitimate company, you should be able to type that name, whatever it is, into your search engine and it should come up. And I find that usually it does, which leads me to the next step. So now we are on this company's website. Good sign that there's a website at all. However, can you now assume that this person is legitimate? Not exactly. You have to spend some time looking that website over very carefully. I'm referring back to my horrifying story, which you should go and watch, because sometimes even the website can be off and it will not be immediately obvious that it is. But what you would usually want to see on that website is that usually these websites, if this is a production company of some sort, they have clients listed who they have worked with before. They have an about page very often, or like a team page or something. And on that page, you are very often able to see if you are actually communicating with some kind of producer from this company or anybody from this company. Pictures of these people who work at that company with their names and their professions listed. So if you are actually talking to a producer from the company, guess what you would see? You would see the picture of this person, their name, producer, there. Very often, I've seen that. However, it's not foolproof, because yes, scammers can impersonate these people as well. So in that case, if you really want to make super sure, you need to find some way to contact this producer on that company's website if you believe that the website is legitimate. And then ask directly, like, "Hey, am I communicating with you on such and such platform?" Now, there are also a lot of ways to check if a website is legitimate. And I'm sure you can find these pages that do that if you search for these. But I will say that sometimes the website is actually legitimate, but it will still come up with a false positive. It will still tell you that it's not, or like be careful or something. The reason I know this is that I've checked my own website with these tools. And some of these tools will actually tell you this is a risky website, even though I'm not doing anything on there. I'm not selling anything. All that's there is just some more information about me and then my voiceover samples that you could listen to, and then you could get in touch with me. And that's all that's there. So honestly, I don't even know like why it's coming up as risky. And you know, if people were wanting to work with me, I would assume that they also want to do some kind of background check on me. So they would check my website. But the good thing with me is that I don't just have a website. I have, you know, this YouTube channel. I have another YouTube channel. I have a bunch of voiceover profiles in places. So even if the website comes up as like risky through some kind of tool that you could use, then at least there's so much more information about me to tell you who I am. So I'm just saying that if somebody's website, especially if it's not like a production company, and sometimes people just, they have their own websites. It's just like one person managing their own website, like just like I am. Their website might come up as like risky, but you need more than that to really decide if something is actually risky or if you are free to proceed. So use your own discernment with that. Now, if somebody is approaching you not through email and is approaching you on some platform, and people who are on Fiverr should pay special attention here, because I find that this happens most often on Fiverr and not so much on other places. I don't know why. I think it's just because Fiverr itself is just, it's a marketplace where people expect very fast work. Like Fiverr is known for 24-hour turnarounds. So they expect really fast communication. Nobody really wants to spend a lot of time communicating back and forth. And Fiverr itself expects you to just start working, like get things done. You need to pay special attention there because there are a lot of people who have never worked with voice actors before. So these people will not usually approach you the way that I just explained in my email example. Instead, you will get, hey, I need voiceover, it's 50 words, can you do it? If you even get that much. Because these people, they've never worked with voice actors before. They don't know how to approach a voice actor. This is 50-50. Sometimes it can be a bad sign if somebody is approaching you that way, and sometimes it's just they don't know the rules. So again, I would not assume scammer just based on that. But this is the point where you do your due diligence. Now it's your turn to ask them some questions. In my opinion, you should not go, yeah, sure, I'll do it, and immediately accept it. Now is where you start asking questions. Who are you? From where? Do you represent a company of some sort? Who are you at that company? Where is this voiceover going? Because a lot of the time, these people will not come right out of the gate with this information. And don't be afraid to ask questions, because all that is really doing is showing that you are a professional and you care about your business and that you care about their project as well. And you want to build some kind of relationship. And this leads me to my next point. Shady people. And how do you recognize like what is shady? And when I say shady, I again do not mean 100% scammer. What I mean is just maybe somebody that you potentially don't want to work with. Here's the thing. If you start asking this person, whether it's on Fiverr or any platform or anywhere at all, these questions about their identity, if they start being evasive, so they don't answer all of the questions. If you really have to pull this information out of them, some kind of weird dance like that starts, that's a red flag. To me, anyway. If this person is really impatient, they're kind of like trying to move things along, and you're gonna get the sense that they don't want to be answering these questions, they just want to get a move on, then maybe you should take a stance. If you don't want to answer my questions, if you don't have time for my questions, then I don't have time to work with you. Because I need to make sure that you are who you say you are. And other than this, you should not just take people's word for anything. Like, you should try to check everything, Google everything that they give you. So what are some of the bad signs? No verifiable info anywhere. You Google this person and absolutely nothing pops up. I had a case like this a few years ago, and this was just somebody that got in touch with me. They were wanting me to do some kind of hotel ads, and they would send me the videos of this hotel. The hotel was legitimate. I think I actually asked them, like, who are you? Like, are you from a production company of some sort? And they never gave me any answers. But while I was waiting for their answer, I was trying to find out who is this person. So I would like search for their username elsewhere. And I would try to find like whatever information that was available on this platform that I was communicating to them with, taking that information and like putting it through Google and just trying to find anything about this person. And I could find absolutely nothing. And this person themselves just would not answer anything, even though the hotel and all of these videos that they sent me and the scripts as well looked like they could potentially be legitimate. I was just feeling that I cannot confirm who you are. So I don't feel confident working with you. And of course, I never told them that, but I just said that I have to pass on this opportunity. If somebody gives you their website and there is no about page, the website is very bare bones, like there's just not very much there at all. This is not cause for immediate concern, because some people and some companies even, they are a little bit like stuck in old times, so they have not updated their website to include what a lot of websites nowadays include, like the about page and past projects and things like that. So they're just running some kind of very old looking website. And you know, you just have to think that people, even in a professional setting, are just people. So they don't always have the time and the resources to update all of that. It doesn't necessarily mean that this is a scammer. It just means that you have some more work to do in order to really try to find out if they are who they say they are. And here's another example. Somebody got in touch with me and actually started out pretty good in terms of their message. Like, they would tell me, my name is so and so. They would send me their website that they were wanting the voiceover for. This was somebody that was running a website that claimed that they were psychic and they would be able to draw your soulmate. Now, I've seen things like this before. And, you know, myself as a person, it's just like outside of voiceover, like I love stuff like that. I love all the like psychic and tarot and all that stuff. Like it's my jam. I'm interested in it. However, I also know that this is a prime material for scams very often. Anything to do with tarot readings, psychic stuff, anything, prime target for a scam or to be used in a scam. And these people are just preying on very vulnerable people who are like in a tough spot. in their lives, who just want some kind of information, because that's what tarot is, meant to give you just like more information about the current energies and stuff. So these people are reaching out to people like this person who will draw your soulmate just for some kind of validation. I'm not saying that this person actually cannot do that or does not have these abilities. I'm just saying that I ended up not working with this person because I could not confirm who I was actually talking to. I couldn't confirm it because even though they gave me their website, which was this I will draw your soulmate thing, I went on the website, but it was just very bare bones. There was nothing to say, really, very much like who this person is. There was like some little section that had a picture of this person. And it wasn't even like the person's full name or anything. It was more like, and I'm making this name up, it was like, I am Marina and I am a psychic and I'm gonna draw your soulmate. And then it was like a picture of some person behind like a tarot table or something. And so I was like, because I know that these things get used for scams a lot, what did I do? I took this picture and I like straight up went and reverse image searched it to see if it would pop up somewhere else. And honestly, I spent like half a day on trying to confirm this person's identity. And so I searched this image. I found that the only other place where this image has popped up before was like on eBay or something. And on there too, there was a person who was representing themselves with the same picture. They were doing some kind of tarot reading stuff. However, that person on eBay was from a completely different country with a completely different name than the person who was contacting me and who was saying what their name is and everything. So that already threw up some red flags for me. So then I spent some time looking at this eBay profile, and this was also some kind of archived profile. It wasn't actually the active profile of that seller on eBay anymore. There was just something about it I could not confirm. It felt to me like these are either two completely different people, and honestly, my conclusion was they might both be scammers. Because even the person on eBay, I don't remember what this was, but I remember very distinctly feeling that this person might actually also be using somebody else's picture. I don't know who this person is in the picture, but there's now two people who are using this picture and claiming that this is them. What did I do? I just ended up telling this person, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to pass on this opportunity. Thank you so much for reaching out, and I wish you the best. And, this person was not rude or unprofessional in any way in communication with me. They were actually very professional. It doesn't really matter if somebody is a scammer exactly or not. What you are trying to do is just trying to confirm legitimacy in the first place. And to feel like I am free to work with this person because I know who they are. So if I cannot get 100% confidence about the identity of this person, maybe they're not a scammer. Maybe this was actually a picture of them. I don't know. And it's the big I don't know that makes me go, it's better safe than sorry. I'm not gonna take this gig. So you see, you're not trying to find out who is a scammer or not. You're just trying to ascertain if this is a person that you should be working with, or if they're gonna present some kind of problems to you later down the road. And again, I have to bring up Fiverr because I don't know what it is about Fiverr, but it seems like Fiverr is most often this platform where it is this way, that people are some of them, not all of them, but they can be very impatient, and they can even be disrespectful. And so these are some of the red flags on Fiverr. If this person is impatient, really rushing you even before anything gets started, that's a red flag. Because even if that's a legitimate person and not a scammer at all, if somebody is impatient like this or rude, this tells you a lot about what they will be like as an actual client if you start working with them. I've had this happen too, where like I start working with somebody and I ignore that red flag that they are very impatient, and then the order gets going and they just keep on sending me messages about like, is this done? How far along are you? And in my head I'm thinking, I would be much further along if you did not take up my time and keep texting me about it. Because this is the thing that like actual like professional clients who have worked with voice actors before, they never do this because they know they are a professional and you are a professional, and they just assume that once you have the information, you're gonna do the work and they're gonna show up at whatever time you agreed upon that they would show up again to accept the voiceover or to give you feedback. But these people who are very impatient, they will keep on texting you about it. What is the status of it now? When is it coming? How is it going? And all this does, it just takes up all of your time that you could be using to work on this order, to respond to them, to manage their anxiety about this order. So in those cases, I just find that it's best to clock this kind of attitude early and to not even get involved. It doesn't bode well for future. Here's another thing. Some of the people that reach out to you, especially if they've never worked with voice actors before, and if they are from a different culture than you, then some of them will actually refer to you as like a dear or sweetie. Like I have had that before. Someone will just be like, hey dear, can you do a voiceover for me, or like something, or thank you sweetie or something. And if you ask me, is this a sign that somebody is a scammer? No. Is this a sign that somebody's going to be hard to work with? No. Does this mean that these people are 100% disrespecting you right off the bat? Also no. Because there are some countries I have found that where this is just a normal way, it seems like, to address other people. And they just may not know that in a professional context, reaching out to somebody and being like, hey dear, is not really appropriate, or at least in my culture it would not be appropriate, but it might be appropriate in their culture. So they might think that they are just, there's nothing wrong at all, they're just being professional in their own way. I tend to notice pretty much everything about the way somebody approaches me or talks to me, because I would notice definitely that I am being referred to as a dear or sweetie. And I would notice if like their grammar is really bad, or like sentence structure is really unreadable or something. But none of these are 100% signs that you shouldn't work with this person. You really, I feel like you need to watch for more. So just because somebody is referring to you as a dear, it does not mean necessarily that they are disrespecting you. If they are actually disrespecting you, you would see it throughout their whole communication. So again, they would be impatient, they would be rude, they would treat you like you are some kind of slave to them who is just supposed to get their work done or something. Unfortunately, some people treat voice actors that way. Like we are just absolute trash rather than professionals. So if they're doing that, and then you are dear and sweetie, well then yes, it's disrespect and you should not engage. So you really have to watch for their communication. And also it's very common in written communication that it seems like people often like don't really care, especially these days. They don't really care for how their sentences look, and like very often they will be texting you like you are their friend or something. Like it will be emojis all over the place, or there will be like no capital letters to start at the start of the sentence, or like nothing like that. And you know, I actually think that there's a place for emojis in professional communication. I've made a video about that. But some people do take it kind of overboard. And so in those cases, what I do is just I watch their whole tone, or I try to at least. I'm not very good at communication myself, but I just try to watch their whole tone. And I try to see if they actually are disrespecting me somehow, or if this is just how they talk. Because for a lot of people, that's just how they talk. That's just how they text, and they don't know to do it any different way. If they are not actually disrespecting me, I let it go. I don't point it out. I still write correctly and all that. But I don't make a big deal of it because they are not actually being disrespectful. So you do have to use your own discernment with that. Here's another thing that might be shady potentially. If they have a new profile and they have no ratings, so of course there's nothing to confirm that anybody else has worked with this person before. This might be a scammer, or this could be just somebody new on the platform. And again, you would have to use your own discernment. You would have to ask them a lot of questions about who they are, and you would watch how they talk to you and try to decide based on that. You never want to accuse anybody of anything, because if it has already happened that you are working with somebody and this now has turned into kind of a nightmare for you, you should always remain respectful, because the last thing you want to do, especially if you're like in communication with a scammer or just a difficult person, last thing you want is for them to leave you a bad rating, because that's just gonna reflect badly on you, especially on Fiverr. It like really tanks your profile for a while if that happens. And here's one last example in my own work of somebody that I saw as like a little bit shady, or not necessarily a scammer, but just somebody that I did not end up working with. And this was a person that wanted me to do some kind of character for their book. I started talking with them and I would ask them for more information, just as I ask anybody. I don't know what the problem was, but this person, they kept on answering questions that I didn't even ask. And they just kept on telling me about the story of their book. They kept on asking me, like, what do I think about that story? What do I think about that character? And all of the questions that I was trying to use to identify who this even is, they just ignored all of that. So they were always responding back to me, but never answering anything that I was asking. Like, I would say something about the story, like, I like the story, or this is an interesting character, I would be interested in actually voicing this character, and I would be able to give you a price for this as soon as you answer the questions that I've already asked. I would do that in a very nice, polite way. And eventually I did end up getting some answers, but I had to do that several times. And in fact, I had to do that like at least 2 times, and they wouldn't give me the answers. And then I would just kind of back off, because I would be like, in my head, I would think, okay, I've already asked everything. And if they're not going to answer, they're not going to answer. And I'm just going to let this go. And then they would write to me and they would be like, hello? I'm sure a lot of voice actors can relate to this. You ask a bunch of things to move the thing along. This happened on Fiverr, by the way. On Fiverr, you cannot take forever to like communicate back and forth, because I think it's actually in the terms of service that you cannot be talking to sellers about stuff that doesn't concern the order itself. So if you're not going to order something, you have to like stop communicating. Fiverr expects things to turn into an order by a certain point. So this was why I stepped back. And so this person just goes, hello? And at this point, I had to kind of calm myself down before I answered. And I was like, yes, I very much love your story, and I think it's very interesting. And I would love to do this character for you. As soon as you answer these questions for me, we would be able to move this to the next stage, or something like that. And that's when they gave me their answers. And eventually I had to just, I decided that this project wasn't for me after all. It wasn't for me because there was just something about it that it kind of clashed with what I usually voice. But also, this just didn't create a good image of this person and what they might be like if I actually stepped into this working relationship with them. And I'm sure you can see why. These are just some of the examples of what it looks like when the communication is shady, what it looks like when you can't confirm who these people are, and what it looks like when most likely the client is legitimate. I would just say don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't be afraid to take time to confirm, to verify who these people are. Even if it takes you a few days to do that. Because in some cases I have had to research people for at least a day in order to come to some kind of conclusion. But it will end up benefiting you in the end, because at least you have not just stepped into a working relationship with a scammer. You have saved yourself a lot of time and saved yourself from some tension and irritability by doing this. So I hope that this helps you with your future clients, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.